Hi, everybody. Welcome to the first edition of The Break in the new year. We are going to be tackling some of the legislative priorities that the association is taking up this year. First on our list, we have a New York legislative priority, defining windstorms. Here to talk to us, as always, is Clare Irvine. So Clare, let me turn it over to you, and I want you to run with windstorms and what we're doing here.
Terrific. Thanks, Brad. As Brad said, the priority is as simple as defining windstorms, at least for insurance policy purposes, specifically homeowners insurance policies. Our legislative proposal just directs the Department of Financial Services to create the definition. It's not even trying to pretend we're meteorologists or experts on defining terms for policy reasons. It's just saying that for the purposes of homeowners policies, there should be a standard definition of windstorm that applies across all carriers and all types of homeowners policies in regions where windstorms are a factor in the policies. It just allows for a single definition, whereas right now every carrier has their own definition, which, to put in perspective, would be like if every carrier had their own definition for what a fire is. You and I might think fire is a fairly obvious problem. It's obvious when there's damage. There's probably a clear-cut definition, and would be shocked if every carrier has a different definition for fire. The terms of the policies vary. Definition, though, should be the same. And so why does this matter? Why are we even putting our strength behind this? As a result of the increasing damage caused by windstorms and strengthening hurricanes, insurance carriers have passed some of the risk onto homeowners who live in these regions. And so the Department of Financial Services has allowed carriers to include a higher deductible for damage caused by windstorm in counties where homes are at risk of being hit by windstorm. So that'd be counties on Long Island as well as downstate New York. And since they're the ones who approve the deductible and they approve the policies and rates, that's the guidance they've put out. The regulation from Regulation 159 requires that the windstorm deductible be clearly stated on the declarations page of the policy. So that way, when you see the declarations page, you can see what your standard deductible is, which is about $500,000, as well as what the windstorm deductible is, which is usually a percentage of the dwelling's value and or replacement cost. This is even more important in 2022 because, as I'm sure anyone who sells homeowners policies knows, replacement costs have just kind of been thrown into chaos at the moment due to a number of factors that would require several other videos to really dig into. On the declarations page, though, it must be stated as a percentage as well as a numerical amount. So if the replacement cost is $100,000, just for the sake of me not being good at math, and the percentage is 5%, it would have to be clearly stated as $5,000 as the deductible. That's $4,000 higher than a $1,000 standard deductible, and that's for $100,000. That's only for $100,000 replacement costs. So you can see how these costs can start skyrocketing really quickly and cost a homeowner quite a lot. Quite a lot, and it's stated up front so homeowners know they're taking on that risk. That's just the deductible, though. Again, what is a windstorm? DFS has actually approved 113 definitions of windstorm for the purposes of windstorm deductible. Some of the definitions, many of the definitions are technically the same, if not substantively similar. Some might say Category 1 hurricane as determined by the National Weather Service. Others may say they hit wind speeds of 74 miles per hour or greater. That or sustained wind speeds of 74 miles per hour or greater, that's the same as Category 1 hurricane. Yet by using different terms, that's a complication trying to figure out what is a windstorm. They may also use different times before hitting land, 12 or 24 hours, or different regions. Some might say before hitting New York, others they might say before making landfall in the county. Those are small differences that can have a massive impact when a windstorm hits. And those are just small variations that you'd have to look into the actual policy. This makes it really difficult to shop for policies and compare what the windstorm deductible really means. Makes it hard for producers to help their clients try and figure that out. And after a storm, it just creates really unnecessary chaos when trying to guide homeowners and whether or not they have to pay a standard deductible or the higher windstorm deductible for the damage caused to their house. And that's not even getting into the question of whether the damage was caused by a windstorm or a flood, which is a whole other ballgame. So because of all those complications, PI New York proposes a simple legislative solution, which is just have a single definition of windstorm. It allows producers to clearly and confidently tell their clients what a windstorm is when they're explaining what the different deductibles are on the deck page. And really importantly, it makes things so, remove a really unnecessary complication following storms, not just for homeowners and the insurance producers, but also for New York agencies, Department of Financial Services, and local politicians when trying to help homeowners navigate such a difficult situation. After a lot of this has come out after Hurricane Sandy, where New York effectively stepped in and said it's a standard deductible. Having a clear definition of windstorm prevents the chaos that leads to that creates problems really for everyone involved. What's not affected by the proposal is that carriers can still charge a windstorm deductible. Nothing in the legislation is trying to limit carriers from doing that. The Department of Financial Services must still approve the deductible amounts as part of their standard approval process. That's been going on since they allowed the windstorm deductibles over 25 years ago. And because DFS already approves these definitions, and as I said, many of them are technically very similar, if not the same, just using different words or different phrases or different lengths, different amounts of words to explain the same thing. Any changes to the actual policies and underwriting factors would in all likelihood be very limited due to the fact the differences aren't as broad as sometimes the wording might make them seem. And this is another reason why having DFS really draft the regulation is that they've been approving these for long enough. They know what is already out there and how to balance the carrier's needs to have the money to pay for the damage with what's best for for policyholders. So in all likelihood, this isn't aiming to drastically change the system. It's just making it simpler so everyone knows what is a windstorm should one unfortunately hit a part of New York. So if you're watching this and thinking, I want to join the advocacy efforts, we're really happy to have you. It's really easy to just get that first step into advocacy. We just watch your emails for calls to action. That includes emailing and potentially calling your local leaders in the state assembly and the state senate so that they can help support this bill and emphasize why it matters and why it matters to their constituents, because it's better to get it now than to have another storm come that provides concrete examples for how devastating, how the financial impact this can have on homeowners. You can also just keep an eye out on our weekly dispatch as well as the news and media site for updates on the windstorm deductible and where the legislation is in the Assembly and the Senate. Follow PI Northeast on social media. We have accounts on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And if you're really interested in meeting with your local member of the Assembly or local state senator, email Brad or myself. We have members, volunteers who go out and have face-to-face meetings, and those are an invaluable part of our advocacy process. So without further ado, there's my email as well as Brad's and the Resource Center. If you have further questions, comments, feedback, or input on this topic, it's one that's a simple legislation that can have a really big economic impact on homeowners. We really want to get through before it becomes a much bigger issue across New York. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Brad.
Great. Thank you, Claire. That was awesome. Yeah, I really like this legislative priority for us. As you mentioned, this is kind of a small change, but it could have really profound impact on policyholders, especially at a time when, they're dealing with a lot, right? In the after effects of a windstorm, and they're worrying about, where their roof literally is located. And then they get a note that they got to pay $10,000 in a deductible. It's not necessarily the call that an agency wants. So I think this would help. Anything that we can do to help policyholders better understand the product that they're purchasing, I think is all the better. And I think this initiative goes a long way in that. So thank you very much for spending a few minutes to explain this priority. I would encourage all of our members and all those watching to get involved in this priority and others if you're interested. Really, the best sort of advocacy that we can do is the grassroots, is from you members. So thank you all. Thank you, Claire. And if you have any questions, reach out and we'll hopefully see everybody soon in the next edition of The Break.